Hey, welcome back and thanks for joining me. For those of you who subscribed, sorry it's been so long. I've just been very busy in my personal life and haven't had a lot of spare time to be working on models. But I have been trying to get one done, which you see here. This is a model I've had on the shelf for quite a while. The Blue Thunder helicopter, one of my favorite helicopters ever from the movie Blue Thunder. And I've had this sitting for a while. I got this on eBay. So let's open it up and take a look at what we've got here. So again, I got this on eBay. It was opened. We have the instructions and we have the model kit here. Of course, we have the body of Blue Thunder. And nicely detailed. This is a monogram kit. Really the only kit out there. Really looking forward to get this built. Here we have some exterior parts around the engines, some support here. We have some internal parts here, some parts for the props, helmet there, sticks for steering. Here we have the cockpit interior, monitors go in here, which I am planning on lighting up. Here we have the front console of the cockpit, which also has a couple monitors in there, which I plan on cutting out and lighting up. There's one here, and there's another spot over on the left. Here is the top portion of the cockpit that's above their heads. Here we have the back plate, or the back of the cockpit. We have the landing gear, we have some propellers here, decals of course, we have the glass for the cockpit. This is a back half to one of the seats. I'm missing one of these back halves, so I will have to do it out of clay or something for the second seat. This I am missing a piece of the prop, unfortunately, which I'm going to have to try to build with styrene. These two rods, there's another one that comes out the back here with another rod. I'm going to have to build that as it's missing from the sprues here. And I have not been able to find it inside the box. So I'm going to start out with the cockpit here. Here is the computer screen, which goes inside this portion right here. And I'm going to cut out that inside and print out a screen and light it up. Here again is the front, which attaches right to the front here. This is the top controls, which attach to the underside of the glass and go above them like that. And then here we have the back wall of the cockpit as well, which attaches right back here. So I'm going to start out with this computer monitor here, and I'm just going to start by drilling out through the center with my X-Acto blade here, and then I'm just going to carefully cut around the edges until I get the entire outline of the monitor cut out. And there we have it all cut out. And then this just slips right down inside here. Fits in there like that. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue it into place with some super glue. And here it is in place with the screen cut out. Next, I cut out this screen, and I have these that'll be painted. Then I have a little area here with some numbers that I'm going to cut out, and a screen on the left. So I've cut out that left screen, and I've cut out that little long piece. So we got a screen here with thermographics, a screen here with text, and this has red numbers inside of it. Then the back wall here, very little lights in the back wall. It's all switches, but there are a couple lights that you can see in the movie. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to drill out some holes for those lights. You can see this shot here, there's like 4 red lights back there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead, and I've drilled out 4 areas here with a 1/4 millimeter drill bit for some holes. Then I've gone and primed everything that you can see right here. And then I've taped off these cushioned areas, and I'm going to paint the back panel with a darker gray color. And I'm going to go ahead and mix it myself using some Tamiya neutral gray and German gray, make my own mix. And I'm going to use that same color for the entire interior of the cockpit. So I'm going to go ahead and airbrush that right now, and then airbrush that back section of the cockpit. Then I'm going to seal everything with Tamiya flat clear. I always seal my paint afterwards. So you'll notice in this screenshot here, the big computer monitor, you'll see that text there. And then also on the front console, you'll see on the right there's the thermographic image when he was spying on them. There's that little section with the 102-700 red numbers, and then to the left of that there's a smaller screen which has like blue text of some location information. So what I've done is, with those screen grabs, I've cut out those images, and in Photoshop I've created accurate scaled screens to install inside the cockpit. So I've printed them out on glossy photo paper, and with an X-Acto blade I'm going to cut the screens out to put inside the cockpit. Here you can see that computer screen graphic. I glued that in place behind the cutout. And then in the front here on the left we have the blue text, the red numbers, and the thermographic image, which I've cut out and glued into place behind my cutouts. So moving on, here we have the back wall. You can see those 4 little holes there for my fiber optics. And then what I'm going to do is, with some black, I'm going to lightly dry brush over these knobs until they start to stand out with black. Then I've also got this keyboard here. I'm going to paint all the keys white, which is the color they are in the movie. And there they are, all white. And I've also painted some other sections of the cockpit white. These other knobs I've painted with black. I've also painted some of the knobs and buttons on the front console with black. And then again, this rear panel with black for the knobs. I've also painted the entire front of the cockpit now with some silver, white, yellow. Done some silver trim around the outside. And then I also added some black buttons on the keyboard. And there you can see the cockpit built and assembled. Next I'm going to move on to the flight controls. We have the one stick that goes here. We have this flight control stick that goes here, and we have the pedals that go in this little area right over here. So starting out as usual, priming them all with Tamiya Fine Primer. Then I gave them a shot of some medium gray to darken them up a little bit. And then on the one stick I painted it black, put a couple of red buttons on there. Again, I'm using photo references from the movie. This control has a white band around the center of it here, so I'm going to go ahead and paint that white. Then there's a black button with a little red around it, and another black button and the black in the center there. Then the pedals, I'm just going to go ahead and glue into position. And there's all of them glued in place. And it's looking really nice so far. I'm happy with the way this is turning out. Moving on to the center portion, I have my graphics that I cut out from the photo paper, and I've glued them in place to light up the screens here. You can see the graphics in there. The big computer screen, there's its graphic laid in place as well. You can see that right there. And the first thing I'm going to do is a test. I have a green LED, and I'm going to test this. And that computer screen looks pretty cool. I mean, you can read the text and everything, so I'm really happy with that. I'm going to use some micro crystal clear, and I'm just going to drop it on the back side of this cutout here. And then what I'm going to do with the micro crystal clear is I'm going to use that as a glue. I'm just going to go ahead and position my green LED in place in there and let it dry. And then once it's dried, I painted the edges of the inside of this cutout all white to reflect the light. Then we do another quick little test, and the screen's looking really nice. I have this neutral density filter. You can see when I put it in here and slide it between the light and the graphic, the text stays pretty bright, but it darkens up the black portion of the screen. So I'm going to put some ND filter in here. I'm just going to take this little piece and drop it and glue it into place right behind the graphic. And that way it kind of increases the contrast, makes the darks a little bit darker, but makes that text still pop, so it gives it more contrast. And that's how it's looking so far. So with the LED in there now, I have this piece of styrene, and I've cut a piece out and I've capped off that entire area there. And then I'm just going to take some black paint, and I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to paint right over the top to block any light leak coming out from inside that hole. And then I put some gels on the back portion of the center there. I got a warming gel, a red gel, and a cool gel corresponding to the graphics, and I drilled a hole out for all the wires to go through. So for instance, here's my cool white LED with the cool gel. This lights up the leftmost console, which has some blue text in it. And then again, I'm going to use the ND filter on this far one with the thermographics, and I've attached two more warm LEDs to the back side of these other two screen areas. And there's a test of the LEDs with the wires run through the hole. So I'm going to take some liquid electrical tape at this point, and I'm going to cover the LEDs with this. I like to use this for light blocking, and it also just protects the LEDs. It's also easy to remove if you screw up, because even though it dries somewhat solid, it's just kind of rubber and it pulls apart. So there it's all light blocked, but it is actually on, and you can see my graphics there. Then I've taken all the wires and bundled them up together. I have my hots here with their resistors, and then I have all my grounds soldered together right here. And that's how it's looking so far in the cockpit. So I'll go ahead and move on to the seats now. Again, like I said, I have these two seats, but only one back. And like I said in the beginning of the video, the one front portion is supposed to fit inside the back portion like so. But unfortunately, one of those is missing, and because it was an open box from eBay, there's no way to get it. So this whole piece here is missing for this other seat. So I've glued the one seat together here. You can see how that looks with the two halves glued together. And for this seat here, I'm going to have to try to replicate that and just build something here, and I think I'm going to try to do that with some clay. Just stick it in and build this back portion here with some clay. Also on this other one, there were a little bit of some areas where it didn't fill in, so I filled that in with some putty just so there weren't some cracks there that could be noticed. Other than that, I think it looks pretty good. So I'm going to use some milliput clay, and I've got some here, and it's a two-part, so I have to cut out some of this first bag and then remove some of this second bag here and just start squishing them together, kind of like a two-part epoxy, until they combine together, and it'll start the process for them to harden and be sculptable and all that kind of stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and take this little bit here and shove it in the back side of this seat. I'm not going to be too worried about making it clean looking right now. And I will also say to anyone who does clay, this is the first time I've ever done any sculpting or used clay, so no harsh judgment please. So anyway, I've got a bunch in here, and I think that'll do for now, and you can see they're about the same height roughly. I have a lot I'll have to trim away from that other one, So I'm just going to go ahead and start using these clay sculpting tools that I have. And I'm just going to start trying to shave some away. I'm getting these tools wet. And I'm just going to try to clean clay away and try to shape it into the basic shape of what I'm trying to achieve. And I've got my basic shape here. They're still basically the same height. I'm going to try to do the area in the back where it's kind of slanted and the cutaway at the bottom and those little grooves in the back. And I've continued on doing that, and then I went ahead and I primed them with fine gray primer just to see how they look. It looks pretty close, I guess. Where it's going to be in the helicopter, it's not going to be that noticeable and that easy to see, so I think I'm going to try to paint it and see how it's going to work out right now. So I'm going to go ahead and shoot these with a darker gray right now. I'm going to use my Tamiya neutral gray, get them a darker shade. The whole back portion of the seat is supposed to be a darker gray, and then the cushion area is supposed to be like an olive drab. So I've created my own olive drab mix using some khaki and just added just a touch of some deep green to get an olive drab type look. And here they are painted, and I did the seat straps and buckles and this little sign on the back of the seat cushion. And then I've gone ahead and I've glued them in place inside the cockpit. So I'll be moving on to the back then, and I'm going to paint the cushion area with that same olive drab mix that I had done for the seats. I've given it a shot of clear coat so that I can then go through and do a German gray wash over it, just to kind of fill in those cracks between the cushions, darken it up, and make it look a little dirty and worn as well. I'm just going to do that over the entire back area here, and then I'm going to rub it away with a Q-tip, and that's what we've got so far with the back wall of the cockpit. Then I went ahead and I've painted these little struts, these little shocks up on the top, black with the little chrome silver in there for the pins. And I've also done a little bit of a darker black wash over that little pocket there. I've also put in some 1/4 millimeter fiber, glued them in place into those little holes I drilled out earlier, glued them with some of that micro crystal clear, and I'm just going to cut them level with the back of the wall here, cut out both sides. And then what I have is a red LED here that I'm just going to glue between the two fibers. Then I'm going to cover it with a sheet of styrene so that'll reflect it, and I'm hoping, and it works just fine, the light's bright enough it illuminates both those fibers. So I've glued them in place now with the micro crystal clear like I've done for the other parts of the cockpit. And then I'm going to go ahead and glue this piece of styrene on top here. Then I've gone and I've painted that styrene black so there's no light leaking, and then you flip it over and you can see the nice red lights on the front. I'm going to go ahead and glue this back portion of the cockpit into place now. And there we have the full cockpit all lit and running. The back, the computer screen, the front. And I really like the way this is turning out. I think it's looking pretty nice. So I'm going to call this episode right now. And next episode I'm going to try to finish the model up. So once again, thanks for joining me and thanks for watching. Hey, if you like watching my videos, please feel free to give them a like. And so you don't miss any of my upcoming videos, click subscribe.